Bronny James was drafted 55th overall in the second round of the 2024 NBA draft by the Los Angeles Lakers. At just 19, he made his NBA debut. More importantly, he's one half of the only father-son duo to ever play in the league together. This should have marked the beginning of a promising career, but the fairy tale started and ended there for Bronny. Hardly 6 months in, Bronny James is about to get kicked out of the NBA. What happened? Well, sports like life hits hard. Is LeBron James the greatest basketball player to ever set foot on an NBA court? Debatable, but that he's one of the greatest is undeniable. So, if your last name is James, you're basketball royalty. And that's exactly why 19-year-old Bronny James is dominating headlines, but for all the wrong reasons. Here's the million-dollar question. Did Bronny truly earn his spot, or was he propelled there by his famous last name? Let's be clear, one of the greatest NBA players ever, stepping onto the court with his son. That's history in the making. Hollywood could spin it into a blockbuster tomorrow, but there's one thing missing, a satisfying climax, a happy ending, if you will. LeBron and Bronny probably envisioned this as the perfect start to Bronny's career. Instead, his early performance has sparked the dreaded N-word, nepotism. Being LeBron James's son isn't just a blessing, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, Bronny was born into basketball royalty with access to elite training, state-of-the-art facilities, and mentorship from the best. On the other hand, he's been weighed down by sky-high expectations since he first picked up a basketball. Sports history loves a good father-son legacy. Think of Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr., a rare duo who both became MLB legends. But the basketball world has never seen anything quite like LeBron and Bronny. A global superstar father still playing at the top of his game in his 22nd year, while his son's set to carve out his own identity in the NBA. LeBron has always been vocal about wanting to share an NBA court with his son before retiring. This made Bronny's basketball journey a high-stakes race against time. But it did come true on October 22, 2024, against the Minnesota Timberwolves. History was made. Becoming the first father-son duo to play together, that was the easy part. The real challenge for Bronny is now proving he's more than just LeBron's son, that he deserves to be in the NBA based on his own skills, not his last name. In chasing his dream, LeBron may have unintentionally set his son up for failure. So, can Bronny make it? Can he break free from his father's massive shadow and become his own man? His future in the league is uncertain, and the path ahead is far more challenging than the journey that brought him here. When Bronny was drafted, many former players and commentators supported the move, acknowledging his potential and viewing his pick as typical for a late second rounder, someone who could train with the best and develop over time. It was more of a pick, based on future potential than current abilities. More importantly, one of the greatest players in NBA history would get to fulfill a dream few could ever imagine, playing alongside his son. Many believe LeBron James had earned this moment after 2 decades of dominance in the league. After all, how many players can still be at the top of their game after 20 seasons? But critics were unforgiving. They questioned whether Bronny's track record alone justified the pick. Without the James name and its unparalleled legacy, would he even have been considered? Their skepticism was understandable until it exploded into outright backlash when the details of his contract surfaced. Bronny had secured a 4-year, $7.9 million guaranteed deal, an eye-popping figure compared to what other late second-round picks typically receive. Consider this comparison. The player taken one spot ahead of Bronny, 54th pick Anton Watson, played 5 years at Gonzaga, standing at 6'8" and weighing 225 pounds. He averaged 14 points, 7 rebounds, shot 57% from the field and 40% from 3, while leading his team to a deep NCAA tournament run. Watson earned a 2-way contract worth $578,000 with only $70,000 guaranteed. Meanwhile, Bronny, listed at 6'2", averaging 10 points per game, shooting 36% from the field and 27% from 3, started just 6 games for a USC team that went 15-18 with no tournament appearance. Yet, he walked away with a guaranteed multi-million-dollar contract. One player grinded for 5 years. His father works in receiving at a food warehouse. The other was born into the spotlight, played only a handful of games in college basketball, and will make over 100 times more guaranteed money. If anyone thought that wouldn't cause resentment from players and teammates, they were mistaken. Charles Barkley said that Bronny would have a target on his back from day one, and he was right. To make things worse, Bronny had suffered a cardiac arrest during a practice session just months before the draft. The incident shocked the basketball world. Forget the NBA. It wasn't even clear if he'd ever play competitive basketball again. But miraculously, Bronny made a full recovery and returned to the court far sooner than expected. Still, an 18-year-old in cardiac arrest and playing in NBA within a year? It raises serious questions. Why was he rushed back so soon? Was his medical clearance genuinely based on his health or driven by external pressures and expectations? All of this might have been forgotten if Bronny had set the court on fire. Unfortunately, his performance has been far from impressive. His early games have done little to silence critics. He struggled to adapt to the league's pace, averaging just 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.1 assists per game while shooting a dismal 38% from the field and 27% from beyond the arc. His inconsistency has only added fuel to the fire. It just looks like he isn't ready for the NBA spotlight after all. The floodgates has now opened. Everyone from former players to commentators to fans has questioned his place in the NBA. Was this massive contract really about Bronny's potential, or was it designed to keep LeBron James happy and motivated? The answer seems pretty obvious. The reality is harsh. If anyone else with Bronny's record and recent health scare had declared for the NBA draft, they wouldn't have been drafted, period. His high school and college stats are average at best. They lack the standout performances scouts typically seek. His shooting percentages, limited starts, and inability to dominate at the collegiate level paint a clear picture. Bronny isn't ready. It's not about whether Bronny can play. He definitely can and has shown flashes of brilliance. The real question is whether he should be playing in the NBA right now. His skill set screams G League development rather than NBA starter. Sure, he has potential, but the NBA is brutal and demands performance now, something Bronny is yet to deliver. So, if Bronny was not ready, why was he drafted? The whole fiasco screams the dreaded N-word, nepotism. Was this all about LeBron's dream and not Bronny's skill? The evidence suggests it might be. LeBron James, the king, the legend, the father. Like everything about LeBron, his son's career has also turned out to be about him and not what Bronny can do on the court. He casts a long shadow that's impossible to ignore. Bronny's last name isn't just part of his identity. It's a brand, a global empire built on LeBron James's unparalleled success on and off the court. But in the hyper-competitive world of the NBA, where talent and results determine survival, Bronny's last name might have gotten him here, but it definitely won't be enough to keep him there forever. LeBron has never been shy about his dream to play alongside his son in the NBA. Honestly, who wouldn't want that? It's the ultimate father-son bonding experience on the grandest stage possible. But dreams and reality don't always align. By pushing Bronny straight into the NBA, LeBron may have inadvertently put his son in an impossible situation. The moment LeBron publicly expressed his desire to play alongside his son, Bronny's selection by the Los Angeles Lakers became inevitable. But it wasn't because of merit. It was because of what it symbolized. A storybook moment where father and son could share the same court. In a league driven by narratives as much as stats, the James name practically guaranteed that Bronny would get a shot, even if his resume didn't quite measure up. Nepotism in sports isn't new. Consider how some of the biggest names in basketball history have benefited from family ties. Gary Payton II, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson all come from NBA royalty. But there's one key difference. They had to prove themselves in the shadows of their fathers' legacies. Their journeys involved grinding through lower-tier leagues, earning two-way contracts, and enduring seasons of being overlooked before they could even sniff guaranteed NBA deals. Bronny, on the other hand, bypassed those hurdles entirely. His 4-year, $7.9 million guaranteed contract stands in stark contrast to what most second-round picks receive. Compare this to Austin Reeves, an undrafted standout for the Lakers, who clawed his way to a respectable NBA career on a non-guaranteed deal. Reeves had to fight for every minute he got. Bronny, by virtue of his last name, walked into one of the most lucrative second-round contracts in recent memory. The optics are impossible to ignore. LeBron's relentless advocacy for his son, combined with the Lakers' desire to appease their superstar, made Bronny's selection feel more like a business decision than a basketball one. The $7.9 million the Lakers are paying. Bronny isn't really about getting him on the court. It's about keeping LeBron on the court and keeping him motivated. That paycheck isn't for Bronny's skills. It's for LeBron's source. So, what does that really say about Bronny, the player? It wasn't just about what Bronny could do on the court. It was about what his presence could mean for ticket sales, marketing campaigns, and a potential Hollywood ending. And even within the team, it's not hard to imagine how resentment might fester. Role players and journeymen, many of whom battled for years just to land a spot on an NBA roster, now share the locker room with someone who might not have been there without his father's influence. Charles Barkley put it bluntly when he said, "The target on Bronny's back is huge, and it's not going away anytime soon." Even before Bronny's drafting, LeBron took to X, declaring that Bronny is better than many current NBA players. While that might be a father's love speaking, it only intensified the spotlight and added more fuel to the resentment. It raises the uncomfortable question: is LeBron truly evaluating Bronny's basketball skills objectively, or is the father in him seeing what he wants to see? But unlike in other careers, nepotism alone doesn't guarantee success in sports. The NBA is a brutal meritocracy where even the most hyped prospects can crash and burn. For all the doors Bronny's last name has opened, staying in the league will depend on his ability to deliver consistent results. NBA history is littered with promising sons of former stars who couldn't live up to the expectations their last names carried. Bronny needs to rise above the nepotism narrative and produce on the court. But, unfortunately, his performances have been anything but impressive so far, and that's putting it kindly. His stat line reads like that of a role player on a struggling team. 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.1 assists per game, while shooting 38% from the field and a dismal 27% from three-point range. Those are the kinds of numbers that would get most second-round picks benched or sent to the G League, but Bronny's last name has kept him in the spotlight. The harsh reality is that Bronny has struggled to adapt to the speed, physicality, and skill level of the NBA. His lack of consistency on both ends of the floor has been glaring. Defensively, he's been exposed by quicker guards and out-muscled by stronger wings. On offense, his shot selection has been questionable, his playmaking unremarkable, and his ability to create his own shot almost non-existent. Consider the development paths of players like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jimmy Butler, who entered the league with little fanfare but built their careers through relentless work, determination, and mental toughness. Giannis came into the NBA as a raw, skinny prospect with limited skills, but worked tirelessly to become a two-time MVP and NBA champion. Butler, overlooked for much of his career, battled through adversity to become one of the league's most respected leaders and clutch performers. They didn't just survive in the NBA, they thrived because they rose above challenges through sheer grit. Bronny's journey, in contrast, seems shaped more by external expectations than internal growth. From the outset, it appears Bronny is more privileged than determined. That might be a misjudgment, but it's how things seem from the outside. There's a certain drive and hunger that adversity brings out in people, a quality forged through hardship that Bronny has never had to face. Everything has been handed to him on a silver platter, and that's not his fault. He never asked for it. But the life lessons and character that adversity builds can't be replicated artificially. That's what seems to be missing in Bronny, through no fault of his own. He's a player, still searching for an identity in a league that doesn't wait for anyone to figure it out. The Mick Hoops YouTube channel described Bronny as a 6'1", non-shooting, non-defending small forward.
He is a 6'1", non-shooting, non-defending small forward.
A brutal but not entirely inaccurate assessment. His limited size, lack of an elite skill set, and inability to excel in any one area have made it extremely hard for him to compete in the NBA. Even the intangibles often cited as Bronny's strengths haven't translated well to the professional stage. His basketball IQ, hyped as one of his best attributes, has yet to manifest consistently in live NBA action. His hustle and defensive effort have been sporadic at best, and his leadership presence, something his father is famous for, has been practically non-existent. Perhaps the most concerning aspect of Bronny's early career is that he doesn't seem to have a clear role or identity as a player. Is he a playmaker, a defensive specialist, a shooter? Right now, he's none of those things. He's a jack of all trades, master of none. It's a dangerous label in a league where specialization often determines longevity. Let's keep Bronny aside for a second. The Lakers management also does not come out looking good in this whole fiasco. If what happened before Bronny's NBA debut raised eyebrows, what has happened since has been downright ridiculous. It was clear that Bronny wasn't ready for the NBA. He needed to be sent to the G League and go through the developmental stages like countless other players have done. If the Lakers had given LeBron his moment in the sun to be the first father to play in the NBA alongside his son, and then immediately moved Bronny to the G League, everyone, including the critics, would have understood, maybe even applauded it. But instead, they insisted that Bronny had earned his place and belonged on the big stage. After relentless backlash, they finally succumbed and assigned Bronny to their G League affiliate, the South Bay Lakers. The response, first, was positive. Analysts like Brian Windhorst and Stephen A. Smith praised the decision, believing G League competition could help Bronny adjust to the professional game and regain some much-needed confidence. But what seemed like a logical next step quickly spiraled into controversy as more details emerged, turning even his earliest supporters into harsh critics. The first major issue surfaced when it was revealed that Bronny would only play home games for South Bay and would not travel with the team. The reported reason? His high-profile status supposedly made commercial travel unsafe or inconvenient. This special treatment triggered immediate backlash from fans and basketball insiders alike. The optics were terrible. How can a player expected to grind his way back to the NBA be excused from one of the most fundamental aspects of professional basketball, traveling with the team? This preferential treatment completely undermined the entire point of sending Bronny to the G League. To make matters worse, it was announced that Bronny would also be switching between playing home games in the G League and appearing in NBA games for the Lakers. This arrangement defied logic's source. If Bronny is good enough to play in the NBA, why send him to the G League at all? Conversely, if he needs G League development, why keep him on the NBA roster? The only plausible explanation is that LeBron James is pulling the strings behind the scenes and the management is giving in. The G League assignment was supposed to help Bronny gain experience, adjust to the professional environment, and prove that he could earn a legitimate NBA spot. Instead, shielding him from the gritty realities of a pro career only reinforced the perception that his path has been carefully managed and artificially cushioned. When Bronny finally took the court for South Bay, his performances were once again underwhelming. Through 3 games, he averaged 8.7 points on 29.4% shooting, 3 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 1 steals, and 1 block in 26.3 minutes per game. Those numbers might be passable for a typical G League rookie, but for a player with a guaranteed $7.9 million contract, they were downright embarrassing. His shooting percentages were particularly concerning: 29.4% from the field and 0% from three-point range. Those figures would be unacceptable for a fringe G League player, let alone someone expected to carry the James family legacy. One bright moment came when Bronny scored 16 points in a standout game, providing a rare glimpse of the player fans hoped he could become. But just as things seemed to be turning around, he was pulled out of the G League citing a heel injury. The timing of the injury fueled intense fan speculation, with some accusing Bronny of faking the injury to avoid further struggles in the G League. The entire G League experience, from his special travel exemption to his inconsistent play, has done more harm than good to Bronny's reputation. Even Stephen A. Smith, who was once cautiously optimistic, turned critical. It's not about whether Bronny can play. He obviously can. The question is whether he should be playing in the NBA right now. And now the latest news is that Bronny will travel with the South Bay team for away games. If true, the Lakers come out of it looking like complete losers who have no idea what they are doing. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Both LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers might have good intentions, but they are destroying Bronny's career by going down this path. They have to stop doing what is right for them and start doing what is right for Bronny. The latest buzz in the NBA world revolves around a potential trade involving LeBron James, a move that would have been unimaginable a few years ago. According to insiders, the Los Angeles Lakers are open to facilitating a trade for LeBron if he chooses to leave, recognizing that he has earned the respect and privilege to dictate the final chapter of his legendary career. But there's a catch that has left fans and analysts shaking their heads. LeBron and Bronny James are reportedly being packaged as a 2-for-1 trade deal. If any team wants LeBron, they'll have to take Bronny as well. The idea of Bronny being included in any LeBron trade feels less like a strategic basketball decision and more like a family arrangement. This development only reinforces what critics have been saying all along. Bronny was drafted primarily because of his father's influence, not because of his basketball skills. The package deal narrative has sparked relentless ridicule on social media, with jokes comparing the situation to a corporate bring your kid to work day. For a player who has struggled in both the NBA and the G League, being part of a trade package involving one of the greatest players of all time highlights just how dependent Bronny's career has become on his father's legacy. Teams interested in LeBron now face a complicated question. How much are they willing to sacrifice on their roster just to appease a generational superstar nearing the end of his career? LeBron also recently announced he would take a break from social media. While framed as a personal decision, few believe that LeBron is stepping away because of a sudden addiction to scrolling through Instagram. The far more plausible explanation is that the relentless criticism directed at Bronny, and by extension, LeBron's perceived role in orchestrating his son's career, has become too intense to ignore. The public mockery, trade rumors, and mounting pressure seem to be reaching a boiling point. For the first time, it feels like LeBron James, a master of controlling narratives throughout his career, may be losing the battle off the court. LeBron James's dream of playing alongside his son has become reality, but at what cost? If Bronny doesn't improve and do it fast, his NBA career could be over before it even truly begins. And that wouldn't just be a blow to Bronny, it would cast a shadow over the James legacy, the family name, and everything LeBron has built throughout his legendary career. The clock is ticking. Bronny doesn't just need to improve, he needs to transform. The NBA is an unforgiving league where only the best survive, and right now, Bronny is struggling to rise to the occasion. But there's still hope. Being sent down to the G League wouldn't be a failure. It could be the beginning of something greater. A dedicated full-time stint in the G League could give Bronny the time, space, and competitive environment he needs to evolve into the player he's meant to be. Picture this: Bronny James returns to the NBA not as LeBron's son, but as a player who earned his place through sheer determination and undeniable skill. No whispers of nepotism, no accusations of favoritism, just Bronny James, a player who proved he belongs on the world's biggest stage. For Bronny, the path forward is clear but challenging. He has to grind, he has to grow, and most importantly, he has to prove to himself, to the fans, and to the critics that he's more than just a famous last name. Stepping out of his father's enormous shadow won't happen by accident. It will take relentless effort, grit, and perhaps even a step back to take a giant leap forward. Bronny's future is uncertain, but one thing is undeniable. If he succeeds, it will be because he earned it. And when that day comes, it won't just be a victory for Bronny. It will be a triumph for everyone who supported him, believed in him, and wanted the best for him, and for anyone still holding on to the belief that hard work, perseverance, and determination can overcome even the tallest odds.